Good. Good morning. Are we? Hello? Are we? Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, we do have, we're going to be starting here to do roll call. Clerk?
Vice Mayor Woodward,
Here.
Commissioner Flores, Commissioner Powell,
Here.
Mayor Baxter, Commissioner Marino, Commissioner Sachs,
Here.
Commissioner Weiss.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We have quorum. We have 4 of us, so we will get started. Could we please have Mr. Kari do the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. Dear God, we're meeting today to conduct matters of business for our community, guide our hearts and minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There are none, but we have some supplemental information for item 7.1. There are 3 pages that have been added to the package, pages 35A, B, and C. This is the consulting engineer's letter that says that the budget is in full compliance with the indenture of trust requirements.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Second.
I think Powell and, I'm sorry, Sachs, I think you were second. We'll give it that way. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? See that passes 4-0. Okay, board minutes. Could we have a motion to adopt the board minutes from June 10th, 2026?
So moved.
Commissioner Weiss is first.
Second.
Sachs is second. All in favor? Any opposed? See that passes 4-0. The Citizen Advisory Committee minutes from August 12th, 2026. Can I have a motion?
Motion receive and file.
Commissioner Weiss is the first.
Second.
Sachs is second. All in favor? Any opposed? See that passes 4-0. And now the Small Business Advisory Committee minutes from June 2nd, 2026.
Motion receive and file.
Commissioner Weiss is first.
Second.
Commissioner Sachs is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? See that passes 4-0. Now we will move on to consent agenda. Did anyone wish to pull something from consent? No? Could I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Weiss first, Commissioner Powell second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? See, that's 4-0. Now we will move on to matters by the public. Do we have any cards for matters by the public?
We do.
Linda Smith.
Thank you. Linda Smith, Sierra Club, Loxahatchee Group, Jupiter. I'm going to speak briefly about the consent agenda and just kind of the agendas in general. When comparing the Palm Beach County Commission meeting agendas, and we've all seen examples, and I've got an example here somewhere, they have live links, so it's real easy for the public to find it. The Solid Waste Authority minutes doesn't have the live links. Buffy has graciously said she will teach me how to use your bookmarks. So I just hope that that would become easier for access for the public somehow in the future. I didn't really have any concerns with the consent agenda items, but I think the public deserves the live links similar to the Palm Beach County Commission, like the site license agreement, 5E, might be a good idea. I like the 3-year agreement. I like a shorter agreement because it allows the commissioner to take those 3 years and ramp up more metals recovery before it hits the incinerator. Metals don't burn well. It's more cost effective to collect the metals separately beforehand, not as little bits. And but I couldn't tell from the staff's recommendation, so I hope you could review all that before you voted. Item 6, matters by the public. To reduce solid to reduce solid waste, we might have to look beyond this room. Maybe to zoning. For commercial properties, for example, we need to possibly reduce a parking space just temporarily to allow for commercial recycling bins as a commercial property adjusts. After the property has adjusted from the typical dumpster where everything goes in to the recycle dumpsters and a smaller typical dumpster, we could probably gain that parking spot back. Commercial properties are probably not creating more trash. They just need a different way to compartmentalize it in that waste corral that we see all across the county. Reducing waste should be a good across-the-business goal for everyone. Solid Waste Authority realizes waste is money, so by reducing the waste, businesses can actually save money and create more opportunities for small businesses to compete with Solid Waste Authority. I might be in the wrong room for that. We already do this somewhat with restaurant oil, but we need to expand the opportunities. You know, we are all aiming for zero waste. If you embrace zero waste, you can reduce waste faster and permanently, like Miami-Dade. If you continue incinerator, you will continue to create waste ash. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Curry, did you wish to address the question about the links?
Yeah, I mean, so what she's referring to, we do extract metals pre and post combustion.
But it's easier beforehand.
We do, but these are like finer fractions of metals that cannot be extracted, and it ends up in the ash. And now, recently, last few years, we've been extracting those as well. And this is a second contract. The board approved a contract for Melgard a few years ago, and so we've been recognizing $500,000 in additional revenue. So now that the metals prices have gone up, so we wanted to increase our revenue from this source, and so which is why we bid this thing, and now we're going to see an additional $1 million in revenue.
Did you also wish to address the hyperlinks in the agenda?
Oh yeah, Ms. Buffy's working with right. So
Okay,
But
all
I
right.
mean, I think Alex Larson made a comment a couple of months ago similarly, and Buffy
Ms.
said
Smith,
something-
perhaps
Could you
you
go
can
to the
come back to the
microphone?
mic. Thank you.
Oh. Okay.
now there are like two different ways of doing it. One is a link; you can click on the link, or the other way is to have bookmarks, which is on the left side of the screen, and then they can click on it and it takes you to that item. So it's a preference.
Okay. All right, thank you. Are there any more cards for matters by the public?
There are not.
All right, thank you. We will move on to public hearing. We are going to open the public hearing for fiscal year 2027 proposed budget. If anyone from the public wishes to speak, please hand in your card, your public comment card to the clerk, and staff will begin their presentation.
Ms. Smith has a card.
She does have a card.
Are we going to allow cards after as well? Or okay, you can go ahead and speak then, and then we'll.
Wait until after. That's fine.
Okay, let's do the presentation first.
Okay, so this one, I'll just start this thing off. Item 7 is the budget. So if you go to page 2 of 35, so it kind of summarizes, where we left off from June and all the changes that staff made. So in a sense, we have some savings here. $2 for a single-family home per year, multifamily is $1, and mobile homes $2 per year. And there's also savings for a commercial low, medium, and high, fraction of a penny per square foot. So in a sense, these are all the changes we made, and so it shows savings from the June meeting. And so if the board wishes to see a detailed presentation, our CFO, Mr. Dunkley, is ready to present.
Would the board like to see a presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. So as Mr. Curry alluded to, we went back and took a closer look at the budget. And so what we were able to do was reduce expenditures, some of which I will kind of detail later. But all taken together, we were able to reduce the single-family assessment by $2, multifamily by $1, and the mobile homes as well by 2. The commercial low, medium, and high assessments per square foot, those decrease as well. The governmental rates remain unchanged. What is the collection rates? Those, as per your executed agreement with the franchisors, those will remain unchanged. So what we did was we were able to decrease the disposal special assessments by virtue of having some reduction in our operating expenses, primarily the FTEs. We were able to reduce that to 50%, and so that led to us being able to adjust the assessment rates accordingly. We decreased the recycling revenue based upon current market trends, and the tipping fee, that increased because after we received the total unit counts from the property appraiser's office, the commercial generation tonnage went up slightly as a proportion of the total, and the commercial entities, they pay half of their they pay assessments, and then they pay half of their total waste generation cost by way of the tipping fees. So therefore, we increase the tipping fees. We'll be generating additional tipping fees from the commercial entities. So all taken, we're looking at these rates. The main increases, as we indicated in the June meeting, was that the building debris rate would be increased by from $80 to $95. We are adjusting the livestock waste rate, and then the minimum tip fee would increase from $10 to $20. And so what staff is therefore asking is approval, your approval of the fiscal year 27 budget, approval of the final assessment rate for the property tax bills, approval of the tip fee rate schedules, and adoption of 3 resolutions pertaining to those items: the tip fee, the rate schedules, and the payments of the timing of when the bills will be paid. And with that said, we're available for any questions that you might have. And I know we have some public comments, so I'll defer back to the chair.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question I have, Dunkley, is you indicated that we reduced the FTEs. How did that happen? Which FTEs were reduced in order to get that 50% for the, or to reduce the special assessment? How do we get there?
Yeah, so the FTEs, when I say reduce the FTEs, we have not reduced any positions per se. Throughout the year, we advertised for the positions, and so the budget in June assumed that everyone would begin employment for those vacant positions would begin October 1st, which is not necessarily the case. Starting October 1st, we're going to advertise for those positions, and throughout the year, we'll be filling the positions. So if we look at the time span between advertisement and when it takes to fill the position, we're going to have some vacancy credits in those positions, and therefore that's where we're getting the cost savings from.
And those vacancy credits, you believe, will allow for an up to 50% reduction?
Yes, we believe so.
Do you know which positions in particular? Any?
We have some waymasters. We have some in engineering. We have some in. There are 24 in total. We have 436 positions. We currently have 410 filled positions, but they're a cross section of departments. We have some in engineering, finance, treasury. So they're a smattering across the various departments.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we can take the comment card now. There's no other board.
Yes. That'll be Linda Smith.
This could be a quick meeting. Linda Smith, Sierra Club, Loxahatchee Group. Again, as a member of the public, I can only hope that the governing board has looked at and compared other strategies and proposals than the REF R1R. I know that's not specifically what's being discussed today at the budget. However, it does enter into the budget because I would like to hope that you've compared the costs, including the environmental costs and time. We have seen estimates for the time and costs for the proposed incinerator. I have yet to see the revised cost and schedule due to the reduction in the size. As a retired architect, I can be pretty confident that there will be delays in schedules and increases in costs, especially considering the project's complexity and relatively low competition. There aren't that many companies that make their living in incineration of waste because it's actually not very popular throughout the rest of the United States. It is popular in Florida. I haven't figured out why. I know that excuse could be used also for going to zero waste, but I really hope you folks are considering the alternatives. Zero waste will have some costs, and when I talk about zero waste, I mean reducing waste, recycling, increasing recycling, reducing packaging. It is a heavy lift, but other communities are going to that, and I just hope maybe you're having your staff as the county commissioners, maybe not the Solid Waste Authority staff, to look at the pros and cons of that. I'm sure the Solid Waste Authority staff are fabulous. I'm not really trying to criticize them. It's just that there's a lot of investment here in this room on the REF R1. And it's in this room and it's in Florida, but it's not throughout the U.S. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments by the board? Okay. So is there a motion to approve the proposed budget, approve the assessment and tip fee rates for the required notice, and adopt resolution number 2026-03, resolution number 2026-04, and resolution number 2026-05?
Madam Chair, if I might ask your permission to read the actual text of the resolution into the minutes,
Okay.
if I may.
Oh, that's after in here, but go ahead and do it now.
No, it's after the board approves it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, after. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So do I have a motion? Okay. Commissioner Weiss is the first.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Powell. All in favor? Any opposed? See that passes 4-0. So, Mr. Carey, will you please read resolution number 2026-03 into the record?
Mr. Dunkley is going to.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, resolution number 2026-03, a resolution of the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, Florida, implementing provisions of Solid Waste Authority Resolution 2021-01 and Resolution 91-27 and FS 197.3632, establishing mandatory solid waste disposal and collection programs, adopting a schedule of property classifications, adopting rates, defining collection areas, ratifying and adopting the annual non-ad valorem assessment rule, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Will you now read caption 2026-04 into the record?
Yes, a resolution number 2026-04, resolution of the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, Florida, implementing provisions of Solid Waste Authority Resolution 2021-01 and 91-27, establishing mandatory solid waste disposal and collection programs, adopting a schedule of property classifications for governmental properties, adopting the annual disposal and collection assessment rule for governmental agencies, providing an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Will you now read caption 2026-05 into the record?
A resolution of the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, Florida, implementing provisions of Solid Waste Authority Resolution 2021-01 and Resolution 91-27, establishing mandatory solid waste disposal and collection programs, ratifying and adopting the annual service charge billing rule, providing payment periods, providing early payment discounts, providing enforcement, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Okay, thank you. With that, the public hearing is now closed. We are moving on to old business. Is there any old business? I'm showing none. Okay, new business. We'll move on to item 9G1. Mr. Carey,
Yeah, Mr. Dunkley is going to present item 9G1.
you're a busy man. Go right ahead.
Oops, my microphone is not on. However, so at the last board meeting, staff was instructed to go back and take a look at our investment program. And so what we did to that regard was to prepare an investment policy overview as to what we felt would give a brief overview of what our investment program is and what our we expect it to be in the future. And so before I go into the actual investments themselves, I just wanted to kind of give an overview of what governs our investment. So public funds investments are governed primarily by three things. And from the least restrictive to the most restrictive. The least restricted would be the state law, which is section 218.415, which states that, for the most part, governments may invest in a host of instruments, but the main thrust of their investment should be safety, liquidity, and yield. And so most governmental entities, us included, we have our own investment policies, and those, the primary difference between our investment policies and the state statute tend to be to allow for investments in corporate bonds, notes, things such as that will generate a higher rate of interest. However, some governments feel that those investments are they are a little bit they're not as liquid or as safe, so they tailor their own investment policy to the tastes and preferences of their governing boards. So that's what the investment policy is for SWA. Then we go to a more restrictive document, which is our indenture of trust. And so what the indenture of trust says is, if to protect our bondholders, you have to create a few accounts, such as a debt service reserve. You have to create an operating reserve. You have to create a multitude of accounts which, at the end of the day, will serve as protection for the bondholders if you fall into financial difficulties. And with those funds, you're only allowed to invest in certain financial instruments, which I'll detail later. And so amongst all of that, the overarching goal is safety, liquidity, and thirdly, but not most importantly, is, of course, we would like an appropriate return. And in doing so, we must try and diversify as well as, lastly, conform to the legal rules and regulations. And so the typical objectives of safety, liquidity, and yield, taking that into consideration, most governments tend to have three types of investment portfolios. A liquidity portfolio, which they use for average, ongoing, day-to-day operating expenses, salaries, utilities, day-to-day bills. Then they have a core portfolio, which is more longer term, and looking at the different objectives of each, the core portfolio is still very high in safety. It's not as liquid because the maturity, the weighted average maturity of those portfolios tend to be a bit longer, and the yield is a bit higher than the liquidity portfolio. Then we have the restricted portfolio, And that's primarily the bond proceeds, debt service, reserves, and so forth. And then the the longest term type of portfolio, which we don't have, but I put it up there for added emphasis, is a pension portfolio, which typically has very low liquidity. It's the safety is not as high. However, the yield is is expected to be much higher than either of its counterpart. With that said, we have to look at, well, what are the authorized investments? And the state statute, as well as our investment policy, for the funds that SWA control, they're a cross-section of accounts, your typical suspects. We have intergovernmental pools, U.S. government obligations, full faith and credit agencies such as Ginnie Mae's. And then on the right-hand side, we have things that are not unconditionally guaranteed by the U.S. government, such as the agencies and what have you, interest rate swaps and repos. What the trustee is allowed to invest in is significantly more restricted. And I just put this up there for you to get a feel of the level of restriction for those funds that are held by the trustee, which is the Bank of New York. And so another consideration is that the bond indenture, the trust indenture, also limits the amount of years that we can go out on the maturity spectrum. We're only allowed to go out so far when we invest the funds. And so we have to take that into consideration as well. So when you look at our actual investable funds, we can split them up primarily into two groups, SWA controlled, and those funds that are controlled are in the custody of the trustee. And effectively, the mandatory collection, that is for paying our franchise haulers and that's rainy day, so to speak, for disaster relief and cleanup and so forth. The operating reserve, that is roughly 1/6 of, rather, the operating is just our regular ongoing funds. But what that means is that the general reserve is the only area where we can kind of have some degree of latitude with stretching out the maturity of our investments. And so, but what we did in looking at your requests from the previous meeting, one major question was how were we performing in relation to the other municipalities. But before we look at that, we wanted to, the industry standard is to compare your portfolio to a benchmark. And our benchmark is the S&P AAA AA Governmental Investment Pool. And since 2021, we have outperformed the pool. We're the teal graph. We've outperformed the benchmark. Right now, we're running about 383, 384. The benchmark is at 372. To kind of answer your question about how we're doing when compared to the other municipalities, we looked at our investment and compared it to some of the indices, the benchmarks that our counterparts use for their core portfolio. So our portfolio, which primarily is the Florida Prime, has outperformed the 1 to 3 year Treasury and Agency, as well as the 1 to 3 year AAA U.S. Corporate and Government Index. And what that speaks to is the fact that even though those indices are for measuring core portfolio, which typically earns a higher rate of yield, rather, it's the chart depicts the fact that from 21 all the way up through 25, the SWA's portfolios outperform those benchmark indices. We're just seeing the 1 to 3 year AAA and the Treasury and Agency index eclipsing the Florida Prime just in 2025 there. So taken as a whole, we feel that we have outperformed the benchmark, especially when you look at the earlier years during 2021 and 22. And the major thing with those years is that those portfolio, those indices, the duration was significantly longer than our duration. And so we were able to take advantage of the uptick in interest rates. Whereas if you were locked into a longer term portfolio, as those indices were, you had to suffer a total loss. And that's what this chart depicts. And essentially, that's all that staff has, and we're available for any questions that you might have.
Okay. Any comments from the Commissioner Sachs?
Very good. I remember 5G1, and I recall at the last meeting we wanted to take a deep dive into our investment portfolio. And I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Carey in my office for the review last week. You've done an excellent job. Appreciate it. I love the chart. Well, we're doing a good job. We're doing a great job. But we had to see it first so the public knows that we're good stewards of the money. And we are. So I appreciate it. And I'm sure that this is all public record so that anyone who questions what we do with our taxpayers' money can see exactly how well we are investing it. I appreciate the work you did into it. Thank you very much, Mr. Carey. I remember bringing 5G1 up last meeting. Thank you for the work. Thank you. And thank you for the good investments.
Yeah,
By the way,
we likewise thank you. And I would like to point out that I'm just a pitchman. Our treasurer, Ms. Jackie Newell, she handles most of our investments, and she's has a dogged determination of making sure that those objectives that we had up there are safety, liquidity, and yield, that those were achieved, and the credit belongs to her.
Well, I think that, Mr. Carey, you've got a very good team, all of you. You're a great pitchman. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Sachs. Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a couple questions. On your slide number, you talk about your pension OPEB fund. What is that?
Yeah, so the OPEB is the other post-employment benefits, and so governments, what they do is they are able to fund. We had it's an accounting standard that says if you provide other post-employment benefits, health care, so forth and so on, you have to record a liability that will show your expected payouts. And so what the GASB standard enabled governments to do was to effectively create a trust fund. And you had two options. You could either do what they call pay-as-you-go, or you could create an OPEB trust. It's other post-employment benefit. Some governments create an OPEB trust. Most others, they go on a pay-as-you-go basis, and that's essentially what that is. It's akin to a pension fund, not as longer duration, but it's supposed to mirror the life of a pension fund.
Great. And then on the Solid Waste Authority operating fund, that amount of money, you've got a balance of $67 million, almost $68 million in there. How long will that last in your expense to cover your expenses?
It's we have about 360 million. That's 60 roughly. It's about six,
About
six,
20%.
36,
Less
one
than,
sixth
less than
of-
3 months.
Yeah, it's around 3 months, 1/6 of the total.
Okay. And then the combination of all of those would then be available in the case of something catastrophic, that those funds would be available to.
Yes, we tend to, the mandatory collection, embedded in that is a slight cushion for disaster relief. We have the general reserve. Also, we're participating in the FROC, and that will enable us to tap into the state FEMA monies to be able to get advance reimbursements prior to fronting the money. So those coupled together, we feel put us in a good position for emergencies and any exigencies that might come up.
Good. So just just to echo and piggyback onto Commissioner Sachs's comments, that you all are managing this very well. The return overall, is in the low fours right now. And, I know people who are in the equities market, they're probably looking at that and, as you know, that those have been considerably higher, but you have a different set of goals that you're trying to achieve. And so a combination of liquidity, safety, and then your return. And I'd appreciate it. Maybe you can share with our board after the meeting. Send us. Just curious on your longer term holdings, what kind of returns you're getting on them. The ones that are out over 2 years. So.
Yeah, we primarily have most of it. We're looking at some treasuries right now. We're kind of most of the investments are embedded in the Florida Prime. They have a weighted average maturity of about 60 to 90 days. However, they invest in a lot of variable rate debt, commercial paper, asset-backed papers, and what have you. But what we are looking at some treasuries. The 2-year treasuries just eclipse the Fed funds rate.
Right.
So it's yielding around a little bit over 3.75. It's closer to the 4 that you mentioned. So we are looking into picking up some treasuries and kind of moving towards the higher end of the spectrum, the longer hand. The only thing, though, is that we do foresee a rate hike coming up. And so we're trying to keep our weighted average maturity below the benchmark so that we could take advantage of the uptick. But we are looking at some treasuries, and especially given that the 2-year, that's around our time horizon for construction of Ref 1R.
Right.
That's kind of our upper bound.
Right.
But to your question, we are looking at picking up some 2-year treasuries because those have eclipsed the Fed funds rate, the upper bound of 3.75.
Yep.
Yeah, it's running around 4, a little bit over 4% now.
Right. Good. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Likewise.
Okay, thank you. And also, I'd like to thank you for the presentation. I think it is important for us to reiterate the safety being the number one, because we have a lot of discussions with people who can get higher yields, but we never want to be in a position where we've lost this money, or it's in a high risk category and disappears. That would be the worst thing. So thank you for protecting that. And with that, I would need to get a motion to receive and file the investment policy overview presentation.
I'll move that.
Commissioner Sachs is first. Second by Commissioner Weiss. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? See that passes 4-0. Thank you. Now we will move on to item 9G2.
Yes, this is the accounts receivable write-off policy. So we're kind of formalizing this thing with a threshold of about 100,000, and anything about any write-off about that amount, will go to the board. So in a nutshell, I mean, that's pretty much the policy, so if you have any questions, we can answer.
Okay. Does anyone need a presentation? I know that you said that for this type of a write-off, it's to get to that threshold, it's going to be more like a commercial, probably operation that's grown to
Correct.
egregious amounts.
So all of last year, the total combined, this is like 100,000 for any individual account. So combined all accounts last year was 194,000.
Okay.
And that number is in the act for the annual comprehensive financial report, so we always provide that number. But so we're bringing this to you, so anything about the 100,000 threshold for any individual accounts would need board approval.
Okay. I don't see any lights on, so with that, could I get a motion for board adoption of accounts receivable write-off policy?
First.
Commissioner Sacks is first.
Second.
Commissioner Powell second. All in favor? Any opposed? See that passes 4-0. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 9G3.
So that'll be a presentation from our Director of Purchasing, Ms. Jody Hart.
Hello and good morning.
Good morning.
Hook me up, dude. Yay! So the purpose of the presentation this morning is to go over some changes, some revisions to the purchasing policy. So the current situation is that our purchasing manual is a rather extensive document that includes both procedures as well as policies. And it really is a stagnant document. It does not align with statutes or change along with changes that go on in the market. So the goal is to make this a little bit more modern. We are not deregulating anything. We're just kind of moving with the times. The first big change has to do with how we govern the document. Right now, as I said, it's policies and procedures in one big document. We are presenting the policy portion. All of those would end up going to the board if we wanted to make any changes to them. And all of the procedures would stay administratively with staff. So in essence, what we do is in the policy and how we do it is in the procedures. And then the other would be the change of purchasing thresholds, going from 5,000 to 10,000 for direct purchases, and formal solicitation going from 50,000 to 100,000. That does not mean that we don't do anything for less than 100,000. Anything that's from 10,000 to 100,000 would end up getting quotes. The next would be the alignment with the Florida statutes. Currently, we have a limit for CSAs and PSAs, professional service agreements. That's a stagnant $25,000. Our recommendation is to align that with Florida Statute 287-017, which has different categories of spend, and that would then make it automatically align with the standard, which currently is $35,000. The next change would be based on extending contracts, how long we extend them for, and who extends them. Currently, it's at 90 days. Based on the infrequency of our meetings, we thought it to be more effective to allow us the ability to extend a contract to up to 120 days, and then for expediency, to allow both the Director of Purchasing Services and the Executive Director to be able to extend it. We just want to make sure that we're not rushing things to try to meet meetings. went through and made some refinements to RFQs and RFPs to make sure that we had consistency within the amount of time that we were advertising, standardizing how we scored, and then how do we deal with, in the event of a tie, that we would be able to work with a best and final offer rather than the existing procedure that was in the manual. And then to go through and make some clarifications of the definition of a sole source versus a single source. Previously in the purchasing manual, it had only defined what a sole source was. We put in the definition of a single source to be able to make it clear, and then highlighted some other more modern things, such as software subscriptions to existing softwares that we use as an exemption that we would put in place. We currently did not have an unsolicited proposal process. We were following state statute. We put one together for your approval so that it would be, as I said, a little bit more expedited considering the amount of time between our meetings. So we're recommending your consideration and decision. And I'm open to any questions.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Great presentation. Thank you. So with that, I would need a motion on the floor to adopt the revisions to the authority's purchasing policy. Commissioner Weiss is first. I only have two of you. A second?
Second.
Commissioner Powell's second. All in favor? Any opposed? See that passes 4-0. Okay, that was our last regular agenda item. Are there any other scheduled matters, Mr. Kari?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take this opportunity to thank my finance team, Christina Richards, Angela Boland, and Jackie Newell for putting together a great budget. And I'll say that they found some efficiencies and savings for the ratepayers. So I just want to thank them. And the second thing is, I'd like to introduce our new hire, Nejla Provenza. She's the Director of Contract Compliance. She comes to us from the Palm Beach County Attorney's Office.
Welcome. Thank you.
And finally, Madam Chair, you have an SBAC appointment, right?
Oh, I thank you. I asked you to remind me for that. I do need to appoint Carol Stender to Solid Waste Authority Small Business Advisory Committee effective December 1st, 2026. Did anyone else have any board appointments to do? Okay. Thank you for that reminder. Do we have comments by General Counsel?
No comments.
No comments. Any comments by the board? I'll start. Commissioner Sachs?
Yes, thank you. During our meetings, we always usually come to discuss what happens with equestrian waste. And I had a very long conversation and good conversation with the director, Mr. Kari, as well as with the attorney on this very interesting and colorful topic. And we realized that with the help of some of our agricultural and equestrian folks here in the county, we can work out a system whereby this equestrian waste is not disposed of in our waterways, which is an environmental disaster, or spread over soil, which is also it's not a fertilizer. And so I welcome that conversation. It's a continuing conversation. I want to thank the director, Mr. Kari, for this. And we are working, and I with him and others in our community are working towards a solution where we can actually use, through a process, this equestrian waste and make it into very good fertilizer. But it is a process, and it is being used by certain companies. And maybe at the end of the day, another meeting or two, we will be able to have a greater understanding of that. Thank you so much, and that was my comment for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sacks. Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Usually when we have our meetings, we meet with the director every other month. When we meet with you, we have our in-person meeting every month, and we meet with the director every other month. Last month when I met with Mr. Ramanakari, we discussed some of the open positions with regard to the FTEs, what's open, and we kind of get a snapshot of the director and then the staff level positions. I think the last time we had a conversation, many of the positions that were the most open, Mr. Kari, remind me, are
It's mostly in operations, so the two big groups that have vacant positions, operations mostly, equipment operators and tractor-trailer drivers, and also the finance team, so those are the two groups that have the most openings. And the monthly reports we provide you, it doesn't get into the details on the titles and, pay grades and such, but it definitely lists you, how many positions we have filled, how many open, and where are those positions open, what departments have those open positions. So the monthly report provides you that snapshot. And obviously it keeps changing every month, and as people, get hired or people retire or leave. So and those numbers are fluid, so it's just that, snapshot for that day, when the report was generated.
Absolutely. And I think for us, a lot of times, I don't know about my colleagues, but many of the times when I'm out in the community, whether I'm doing community workshops or just run-of-the-mill activities in the community with residents and citizens, the question I'll have is, whether it be solid waste, whether it be the Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners, whether it be inside of other departments that we have at the county, if we are the county commissioners and we sit as the Solid Waste Authority Board, people assume that we know every position that's available in the county, which we don't, unfortunately. But I often tell people that, what we can do is we can look into opportunities. And I believe the Solid Waste Authority provides great opportunity. So I did ask a little bit more with regard to the Solid Waste Authority. I asked Mr. Kari about director positions that are available. I think at the time it was one or two. I think it's two. One is being handled by two people. But one person is you can explain. I'm sorry.
Sure. You're right. A couple of months ago, we had two positions that were open. One was the director for contract compliance. That's because the previous director, Mr. Mogovero, he retired. And as I introduced Ms. Proenza, she filled that position. She was an attorney at the county attorney's office. And she came to us with a lot of legal background, and so she filled that first position. And the second director position, that came as a result of Mr. Myers' promotion to the COO, and that's because Patrick Carroll, who used to be our COO, he retired in June. So Mr. Myers filled that position, and so that opened up a vacancy, his previous role, which was the director of land management, basically running all the landfill and grounds maintenance operation and other things associated with that. So that position as of today is still vacant, and so we advertised both internal and external. So we had a total of 8 candidates, and we interviewed all of the internal candidates, which we always do, no matter what the position is. We interview all of them. If they put in an application, we interview them. So that's been our policy, and we also had a short list. There were so many external candidates, but then we had a short list of candidates from outside SWA. So a total combined, both internal and external, with 8 candidates total, and we interviewed them. And so we went through the top rank. That was someone who's known to us, and he's in South Florida, and he works for another major county here. And so he was our top candidate, but we couldn't agree on the salaries. So, and then we went to the second candidate, who works for a major private company, and he had a non-compete. So, and that didn't happen. So we went to the third one, and this gentleman happens to be from the Midwest. So he flew down here, took a tour of our facilities and everything, and he looked at the cost of living, and he said it's a no-go. So, those 3 met all the requirements we're looking for in the job description. So it's basically, there are 3 aspects we look for. which is operational experience. It's not just like running equipment, it's managing the landfill and the grounds. That's one of the major responsibilities for this job. And the second one is regulatory, which is heavy. This is a technical job. It's into airspace utilization, compliance with all the permit conditions, and all the requirements from DEP and other agencies, including the EPA, which includes like Title V and all that. So it's pretty complex, regulatory. And the third one is administrative and managerial. So we're looking for a combination of experience from all these three aspects. And so the top three candidates met them. And then, so we just go down the list, and then, the qualifications drop off pretty quick.
So let me interject there. In my conversation with and this is why I wanted to bring this to the board with Director Kari, is the challenge I'm having is the candidates that were interviewed, all of them were from outside of Solid Waste Authority. Of course, when we hired Mr. Kari, the idea was, and this board can agree, that we said this is such a unique type of facility, this is such a unique organization that we don't want to go outside to find anybody to be the executive director. And when we look at the landfill manager or director position, what troubles me is, if this is such a unique organization, the candidates who are internal, and I believe there were 2, I don't know how many applied in total. I guess the short list is 8. But the internal candidates didn't rise to the top. The fact that we have to fly people in from the Midwest means that either, and board, y'all can chime in and let me know if I'm wrong, either we're not properly preparing people here, or that the qualifications of everywhere else is so significantly different that they're just training people better than we are. In addition to that, when we talk about those 3 areas, operational experience, regulatory airspace, and administrative and managerial experience, one of the things that, and I requested that all of the board members get the resumes as well. I started looking through the resumes, and the thing that was pointed out about the person who rose to the top was that he had a PhD in engineering, and that experience in terms of that resume for the person who didn't accept the position is significant. And compared to everyone else's, there's a lot of candidates who have rose to the top who, although they have years of experience, they only have a high school diploma. And as somebody who has a master's degree in urban and regional planning, and I'm certified as an AICP certified planner, if I haven't been a planner for 30 years, but maybe I've been there for 15 or 20, and someone were to, and I'm at the organization, let's say I'm at a county or a city, Palm Beach County, because I work for the county. Let's say I'm a county planner, and we hire somebody from the Midwest who has a high school diploma but has been a planner for 30 years, and we tell me, well, I guess we didn't train you well enough, so we brought somebody in. When we're flying people in, it's a challenge for me. So I wanted to kind of bring that to the board to see if there's something that we need to do process-wise to make sure that the people here in Palm Beach County, for our Team Palm Beach County, the Solid Waste Authority, are being prepared better. And I do know that as people move into directors' positions, and I'm sure, Mr. Myers, you're probably, unless you just came in knowing everything, you're probably still learning the operations side to be the chief operations officer. And I think what weight do we give for individuals who are currently at the Solid Waste Authority, or do we negate that experience, or do we give them a negative for being currently employed at the Solid Waste Authority? And then even in terms of negotiation, as you look, I'll be honest with you. If I worked here, and let's just say I worked here only 10 years, and I applied for a position, and I have a master's in urban planning, and I've done a number of jobs here, and I didn't rise at least to 3rd or 2nd place, and everybody else was above me, I'd be pretty defeated. So my question is, and I want to bring it to the board, how can we help? What do we need to do? And to the director and to your team, how do we make sure that our people are prepared to move into director positions and not be, as they call it in growth management, skipped over in terms of development? How do we make sure that our core is ready?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer that. I mean, in fact, like, you're looking at the management team here, and half of them came from the outside. Mr. Myers, like I said, came from the outside. And Nate Mayer, our chief engineer, he came from the outside. But then, their positions, so once they got here and there were internal opportunities, I mean, in fact, it's Nate's fourth role here, so, I mean, he was in different departments. And Mary Beth Morrison, who's our director of environmental programs, she's been with the authority 36 years. And she started as, a staff member in the environmental programs department. And Mr. Gonzalez, same thing, so he was in maintenance. And so there were opportunities that were provided. So, I mean, they move up. So, I mean, it's like, we have a good balance of both, so we look for expertise in some areas if there's nothing internal. So, I mean, in fact, I'll share my personal experience. I was hired as a chief engineer back in 2013, and I was a consultant to the authority. I was an outsider. So, I mean, there were qualified people internal, but, at that time, they posted it external. I applied, and then I got the job. So, same thing with Nate's position, and Ms. Hart, same thing. She came to us from Fort Lauderdale. And our CFO, it's the same thing. So he came to us from Delray and another municipality, Tequesta, right? So, so again, it depends on the position, right? If there's internal expertise available and they're qualified, so I mean they get hired, and so if they don't meet the requirements of the job, then we look outside. But it's always been our policy that we if someone applies, we interview them no matter what, so we want to see who else is available. If not for that particular position, what's coming up in the future. So I mean they get on a list of like, okay, so we have some potential candidates, not for this position, maybe something else in the future. So we know them better. Because most of the time, HR or other departments, they don't know people that work for other groups. And they get to know them better, and that's typical. We're not planning to change, our interview policy. We're definitely going to interview all the internal candidates that apply, and at the same time, we're going to see, what are the requirements for the job, if they meet it or not, and if there's any training we can provide them, so they can, get to know more aspects of the job and get promoted from within. We're definitely going to do that.
Did you have follow-up? Or?
I'll let you.
Okay, Commissioner Sachs, you were next.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, let me say, nothing wrong with the Midwest. As someone from Michigan, we got some pretty damn good people from the Midwest. Okay. Secondly, Commissioner Powell, my colleague, an excellent idea that we have in the county is that we have partnered with a number of universities here, because we like local talent. Florida Atlantic University, Palm Beach State, for internships. Folks who are studying in this area, who are residents or who come here from great places like the state of Michigan and want to make this their home, then they have provided to us, to Palm Beach County, paid interns. They pay. They work for us. We don't pay them. And the experience they get is invaluable. And from there, they begin to become part of our family. So I don't know, do you have interns here, Mr. Kari? Is that something that you've implemented?
From time to time, we do have interns.
I would encourage you, and if you need any, you don't need any assistance or advice on this, but like I said, we partner with FAU. And we have an influx of interns coming in from Florida Atlantic University who are majoring in areas that are consistent with what we do. I would like to include, and we'll have this conversation as well, like to include this department in that because there's no better experience for a student than to be right here and get hands-on, and you work with them. And the FAU pays. It's a great situation. In fact, one of my staffers today was an intern majoring in planning and land use, and now is a full staffer. So I will send you the information that we have from that. We just instituted it with our new administrator, Abruzzo, and it's worked out very well. And that way, yes, you hire your own, and you get to know them. They get to know the business here. So I think, and I absolutely concur with that. Thank you,
If
sir.
I may add to that, Madam Chair, it's in fact one of our engineers. She joined us about a year and a half ago. She was an intern. She attended FAU. She's a mechanical engineer, so she interned with us for 2 summers, and she did a phenomenal job, and we hired her. And so, I mean, it's happening. Again, it depends on the candidates that apply and, what opportunities are available.
I'll certainly share with you our contacts at not just FAU, but Kaiser University, Palm Beach State. They would love to have an opportunity to work with you, the directors and the masters of this, and that way we hire our, keep it within the county. Thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Powell.
Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for bringing this up, Commissioner Powell. I mean, I think he's identified, Commissioner Powell's identified something, and I don't know that we've ever had a discussion about, but do you have a formal program? So as your staff is meeting with, when they're meeting with their, managers, that they can express the opportunity that they're interested in pursuing other avenues and opportunities within the organization. And let's be honest, that not everybody does. Not everybody. Some people are very happy, with what they're doing, and they're and not looking for additional opportunities or responsibilities. But other people are. And do you have that kind of a program here?
There's no formal program, but during the performance evaluation every year, they sit down with their managers and share their career progression, how things are going, and if they want to do anything different, they can bring it up, and we'll try to find opportunities at that time. So there's because this is a very small organization, and so we can definitely set up something, So
I mean, you're not that small. I mean, you're not a small business, although a lot of the work is done by contractors and so forth. But I think it would be beneficial that if people are interested in pursuing specific areas, that there's a pathway that's been identified on how they're able to move forward. Obviously people develop at their own rate of speed, but to be able to do that, I think makes it more valuable, makes the organization more valuable, makes the employees and staff more valuable if we've got a program like that. So I think it's worth looking at. I don't think it's all that time consuming to create something like that, but I think it then and you might find a lot more talent than you imagined that exists within the people that are here. On the other hand, it'll also help you identify where your possible gaps might be, and then what is that succession planning? How are you to the extent that you can do that? When you're able to move people internally, it's just much more. I mean, they hit the ground running, right? Obviously, every new position has new things to learn, but when you already understand how the organization works, and the culture, it's much faster, and so more beneficial, and gets them productive, and then helps when you're hiring, that people see there's an opportunity, and that you're really committed to wanting to help them, move in the direction that they want to move for themselves and their families. So that'd be my recommendation. I think what you brought up is really valuable, and this this lesson, and this is going to continue on. I don't think it's going to get easier to hire people into our community. This organization is not the only one that is struggling right now because of our very high costs here. And we're not able to compete with the private sector. We provide excellent benefits, but not, when you have to pay a mortgage, it doesn't, unless you have that money, that you can't do it. And people are looking at their families and everything else. And so I think I don't see it stopping at any time soon. So I think it's really important that we, people that are here, we avoid that cost and that shock.
Thank you. And before I come back to you, I was going to weigh in, although I think you might have been reading some of my notes. You covered a lot of what I was going to say. But no, I thank you for bringing this up, because I think it's something like this board in multiple capacities we kind of need to answer. And when people come to work for our organizations, what's their future? And, if you're coming here, because as you said, we can't always be competitive on pay. But, if you can come here and look at, I'm going to work here my whole career, and it doesn't mean that I'm tied to this one position. Like there's all of this in front of me, and what does that look like? And it does sometimes hurt. It hurts morale when people feel like maybe they're skipped over. And sometimes, we do have to hire outside, but always, especially now if we don't have the bench yet, but that needs to be the goal, is to make sure that we have a bench that is people that are coming here to work. And, you live here, you work here, we want them to stay. I mean, that's, again, we have good benefits, but if this is a place and you really are putting in your roots and you want to stay here and you want to work long term, that's also their future is tied to our future and tied to the county's future. So I think it's just it's a really, thank you for bringing this up. And turnover is expensive. It's more expensive than promoting from within, because once they're here, we're moving up instead of having to do the recruitment and the onboarding. It's very expensive. So I like this, and maybe it's not something we can flip the switch on right now, but I think it should be the goal, is to have most of the promotions coming from within the organization. That go back to you, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to piggyback off of what our chairwoman said with regard to morale, I think this board, when we hired you, Mr. Kari, we made the right decision. I believe that the directors who are sitting here today would have been pretty disappointed had we gone outside and we decided to do what we wanted to do and came and brought somebody else. Jim Collins wrote a book called From Good to Great. And in that book, kind of the gist is you want to, amongst other things, it talks about rinsing your cottage cheese, but also keeping the wheel going in one direction. And when you talk about morale, my sister and I, my sister, the former director of IT for an organization here in Palm Beach County, but while my sister was there, she's older than I am. Of course, I'm in my late to mid 20s, 40s. But we watched as people came in from the outside to be her boss. And the challenge with that is I've seen it happen over and over again, and not just that organization. I've heard from people. It happened to my father when he was a young guy. He was a foreman on a construction site. They hired somebody younger than him to come and be his boss. And it does hurt morale. The idea that, and it can be subjective. I mean, you indicated that at the evaluation period, individuals will sit with their managers, but your manager has also got to be engaged. And for me, I'm always super engaged in my employees' success. I try to send my people through Leadership Palm Beach County and different trainings to get certifications, to continue education, because I don't want them, when I leave this position, because I do have what they call the gift of a goodbye. If there's an opportunity, I'm leaving. But some people have stuck with an organization for 20 or 30 years, and that's where they've been, hoping to be upwardly mobile. And I think it is. It's a shot to your moral fiber if you see somebody come in from the Midwest and we're offering that person who has a high school diploma a position. Well, I've worked and I've got my master's degree or I've got my bachelor's, but I don't have, that person has 10 years more of landfill experience. And then also to say that when you talk about operational experience and regulatory experience with airspace and DEP, administrative and managerial, you don't mention I like to get out there and get in the field as well. But it doesn't mention anything about education experience. So to me, it would be useless to take advantage of educational criteria if it's not even weighed in the job application process. I think it's unacceptable that we have qualified people who apply for positions and we continue to move the line. We'll say, you were almost there, but we're just going to push it a little bit further. And you know what you need to do? Potentially, when the next position comes around, we'll look for something and we'll move you there. It cannot be acceptable. And I'm glad that, and I'm hopeful that Flores, as well as Baxter and Marino, will look at the resumes that we've seen, and hopefully we'll see some of the same things that I see. And I know some of my commissioners are more in the weeds of things than I am, but I'm bringing this to our attention because I believe that as a board here at the Solid Waste Authority Board, we owe it to our people to do better. And I believe that this organization, which is not a small organization, can do better. I'll leave it at that. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Mr. Myers, did you want to speak?
Thank you. Good morning. We value our employees very much when we're rooting for them to be able to develop and get into positions that are going to allow them to thrive in their career. It's the most important thing for me. But we also, in critical positions, have to have high-level experience. This position is one of those positions. The folks that were interviewed externally had decades of high-level decision-making experience in all those aspects that Romana mentioned. That's the separating factor, and believe me, I have a vested interest to hire because I'm handling my fair share not having somebody in that position. So I absolutely want to be successful, and my first concern is always to hire from within. Very important. Morale is extremely important to me. Anybody that's worked with me knows that. And I had the same mentality and attitude in Broward County. Very important to me. But the position has to be right, and you have to hit the ground running. This is a critical position. And also, we're going to be losing folks over the next few years. There's been a cycle over the last decade or so, folks that started and developed this authority, and a lot of those folks are retiring out. So it's extremely important for us. All of our hires at this point are critically important. All that being said, I agree that we have to have the best development possible. So I just wanted to share a few of my personal thoughts on it.
Thank you. I don't doubt that you value your people. I believe that. With all due respect, I don't work here. And without working here, I don't know firsthand. I can only take you at your word. But what I can also see is, as the landfill manager, how long were you there?
In the previous position, Land Management Services Director?
Yes, sir.
Approximately 5 years.
Here's my problem, with all due respect. The time you were there, you knew, or at least the director, we know there's going to be change. There's a possibility that you could retire. It's a possibility that for some reason you have to leave for health reasons. That no one was prepared to just step right in. So with all due respect, I do understand that you value your people. Would you say, I don't know. I'm taking it from you. I have never worked for you. And I'm not to say one day I may work for you. But with that being said, it's a challenge for me, and it's unacceptable that somebody wasn't trained to step right in. Things happen. If I were to leave this planet today or leave my position, my office would continue to run. And whenever there's a special election, somebody's ready to step in. But I know right now in my office that I have a staff that is completely capable of moving forward without me because they've been trained to do so. And one of my people is a former council member for a city. So I look at contingency plan, and I would expect that the Solid Waste Authority would do so as well. So with all due respect, I understand these are complicated positions, but you did it. If you did it, I believe somebody else here at the Solid Waste Authority could probably accomplish the same thing. But what I think you're telling me is that you failed to train people to be ready to take those next positions. And if that's what you're telling me and the rest of the board are ready to accept that today. But if you're not telling me that, then I believe that you and the director should be getting people ready internally to fill some of these positions that you yourself had indicated that will be ready to be replaced in the next few years. If not, when we come back here and we continue to see the same things happening and people internally getting skipped over, it is going to be, as they say in America, a problem. And I will address it if the rest of the board won't. And I don't want to address it, but I'm not going to continue to look at resumes where we're bringing people in from Seattle or the Midwest or California or Georgia. And we've got people right here in Palm Beach County who've been working here for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And then we sit here and say, well, we have not prepared them. They're not qualified. We just interview everybody because they work here, and that's what we do. Unacceptable. We've got to do better. And I know you guys can. So let's do better.
Commissioner Sachs?
I respect Commissioner Powell's opinion. I like to look at it this way. Do we have continuing education here, Shikari, for our employees?
We do provide for continuing education.
All right. We need the best person for the job, period. Period. I don't care if they're from Seattle, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. If we got the best person for the job, we should not discriminate against those who come from another place. If I asked everybody here if they were born and raised in Palm Beach, I usually, in my district, I'll find one guy in the back of the room. We come here from other places to find opportunity here in Palm Beach. This is paradise. And when you come from Michigan, this is really paradise. But this is how we grow. We grow from people coming here looking for opportunity. As long as we give an opportunity and the training, continuing, we call it in law continuing legal education we have to take every year, but continuing education in IT and administrative opportunities and things that are coming up that are important for employees to know about so that you are the best possible employee for the Solid Waste Authority. That's what I'm interested in. I don't care where you come from. I don't care where your families come from. I care that you want to be here, that you have the skills. So I don't like to discriminate against anybody because they come from another state, even if they come from another country. This is how our country was built. This is how Palm Beach County is built. As long as we in Solid Waste Authority give our employees the opportunity to get more training, more IT, more whatever it is that makes you better than anybody else, then you hold your job. If you don't keep up with what's going on in your business, and somebody else from another state or another county can do it better, we hire that person. That's my personal opinion. I'm not in your hiring board, but that's the way our country has grown, and that's the way Palm Beach County has grown, and that's how we're going to continue to grow. So I'll keep it up to you, Mr. Carey, as long as our employees have opportunity to take college education or postgraduate education in what makes them competitive in the hiring world and the best that they can be to do this job. Because that's why you're an employee, because you are the best possible person to do this job. And I appreciate that because I think we've got a great business going on here. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Madam Chair. And I can see Commissioner Sachs's point, and I do want to admit I also don't want to discriminate based on race, age, gender, or any other of those societal ideas or faculties. However, I was born in Palm Beach County, graduated from Palm Beach Gardens High School in 1999, went to Howard Watkins, went to Palm Beach Gardens Elementary, went on to Florida A&M University to receive a bachelor's degree in public relations, graduated magna cum laude, Scholastic Athlete of the Year, Academic All-American, 2 scholarships, both journalism and athletics. Went on to FSU to receive a master's degree in urban and regional planning. And luckily, I was able to come back to Palm Beach County, where I'm from, where my mother is buried, where my dad lives, where my family is at. I had that opportunity and that option. However, Commissioner Sachs has said it best, this is paradise. But the people who I grew up with have been priced out of paradise. My best friend, who lived here until 2 years ago, was born and raised here as well, recently had to move to Georgia because in the healthcare field, they provided and paid more money. I've watched people who are in education. Florida, we've come down. As a state representative and a state senator here, we were 49th in the nation when it came to pay. We're now 46. Many of my friends who are teachers who are my age, because $47,500 is not a lot of money to start in the teaching field, are moving to Georgia and Alabama, states outside of this area. Those people's parents live here in Florida. They probably like to stay here. Now, I don't believe in discriminating based on locality and whatnot, but I do believe there should be some idea placed on local preference. I don't want to leave Palm Beach County. Bobby Powell Sr. lives in Palm Beach County. And if I can't work in Palm Beach County, I can't see my 79-year-old dad, who I talk to and see almost every day. I talk to him in the morning. I talk to him at night. But you know what's the best part about seeing and talking to my dad, every day, is when I want to see my father and ride around the corner in Riviera Beach and go put hands on him. I can give him a hug. I can talk to him face to face. That's very difficult to do when you live in Georgia and your parents live in Loxahatchee. But that's what's happening. So I do care that the people who are in my age bracket and younger have the ability to come back home or even stay home. Of course, if I don't like where I'm at, I've got a skill set, I'll leave. But at some point, I do want to come back to Palm Beach County, because if my mother's buried here, guess where I want to be buried? Palm Beach County. What they say, Riviera Beach, born and bred, and when I die, I want to be Riviera Beach dead. I want to be born where I was, or buried where I was born at. This is where I want to live. And if there's no opportunities here, then I got to go. But can everybody just pick up and go? I do have a wife and a kid. Luckily, only one kid and one wife. Everybody don't got that. So can we provide those opportunities? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. So I think the board would like a balance, and, you know, and as someone who wasn't born here, but chooses to be here, I think choice is a big deal. And if people do want to come here, the opportunity, and they bring skills that we need, that's important. And, you know, if you come here, you want to make a career with us or in Palm Beach County, we want the best. And God bless you for being fortunate enough to be born here. I wasn't, but I still choose to be here. And my family's far, far away, and they like to come and visit me here too. So they get to come and visit my little slice of paradise. But again, we do want the best employees and the employees who want to be here. And for the employees who want to be here and want to progress, those are the ones that I want to make sure that we have a path for them. But not everybody does. And if they don't, it's about choice. If somebody wants to be very happy where they are and stay there, if they want to move up, let's make sure that there's a path. But ambition and drive and determination play a role in this too. So again, if you're an employee listening and you want to move up, it is on you. I mean, any one of us who are where we are, we fought to get here. And, you know, and it's possible. You can do it. I just want to make sure we're not putting roadblocks in front of them either. So if they do have that drive, we want to make sure. But again, there's a balance in this. And, that's, I think, what we're just looking for. Did you want to address this before we close it down?
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, I promise you this, so we will definitely, provide opportunities. We always have done that, and, we'll provide training. And if anyone wants to, like, step up and take on additional responsibilities and they've shown that interest, we'll definitely provide the training, so we have budgeted for training and certifications and such, and we'll continue to do that, so our goal is to have a good bench strength, so when people retire or leave, so there's someone who's ready to take over that responsibility, so I promise you that we will do everything in our capacity to do that.
Commissioner Weiss, you were next. Just for comments or whatever. Your comments.
Thank you. No, thank you. I just, first off, to the staff here, as always, thank you. Thank you for the folks that, of course, not in this room, that make sure that the work gets done each and every day and taking care of our customers. And, you guys continue to exceed and excel, in a difficult business that you all operate in, and so I just want to share my gratitude with you personally, but also hopefully you'll take that back to the folks that can't be in this room today and thank them for their efforts each and every day.
Thank you. And I'll just wrap it up by also thanking you. It was signing the documents, happy to be able to sign that we are reducing rates, even if it's a nominal amount. It's better than increasing, which is really difficult to do right now. So thank you, everyone that participated in helping us find a way to do that. From this person, I would appreciate it. And I just will announce our next regular meeting is scheduled Wednesday, October 14th in this facility at 9:30 a.m. And with that, we are adjourned at 11:05. Thank you very much.